Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you may be. Welcome to another scene set in Edessa the Dark Crusade, Season 2. Tonight, we begin our scene within one of the half a dozen cells that exist within the basement floors of the local chantry of the Tremere. The Tremere have recently apprehended a young neonate found trespassing on their domain as part of a boon of the Sedites. A difficult situation for all involved, one might say. Over the course of 3 nights, Garland, our young Brujah prisoner, was staked and brought to the chantry, kept within its dungeons, and telepathically probed, although he does not know this latter fact. All he knows is that he has been kept staked within a prison cell for an undeclared purpose. Throughout these 3 nights, he hears very little, only the creaking of the floors above, the slight dripping of what thinks he can smell to be blood, and growling and grunting in the background, often followed by what appears to be the sound of moving rubble and rock, and the sounds of it cracking, either under pressure or through the impact of some force, but he can't tell. And the only thing he can feel is the cold, damp stone floor upon which he rests. As the dust settles on him, unable to move, speak, or even blink. The dust rests on his eyes. The slight dripping water that constantly lands on his shoulder is just agonizing. Every minor sensation has become agonizing. This constant stream of monotony, as he is unable to sate his hunger. But on the third day, this constant state of stagnation and slow decay is interrupted. But what has Garland been thinking about? How's he been feeling up until this point? Over the course of these 3 days of this almost unique form of torture.
He does his best to think about the past few days and just his life in general to try to keep himself sane and not lost in his thoughts or lost into the void of simply being probed and sensated through touch and mind. He wonders if he's simply going to die here or be left here in this dungeon, not fulfilling not fulfilling his purpose through his sire and his mentor, and not reaching his penultimate destiny of being brought into the life of a child of Cain. And also thinking about what the Setites were doing in the town and within the domain while he was a distraction. Though he never knew was to the direct detail, he speculates and wonders if possibly through his speculations he can get some type of armistice. But that is a pale concern to what is now still another day sitting there or laying there in utter stillness.
You're able to count the seconds as they tick by. And you think about 1,328 seconds past the second hour of your awakening. You hear the door to this basement open. And a couple of footsteps. They're also slightly different paces, traveling down the stairs. Fairly casual, slow footsteps. Not in a hurry. They have all the time in the world. And they slowly walk around the room as they get off the stairs. Initially around the corner, down this small hall into the more open area of the basement. Then past what you remember as a closed off room, but you're not sure what was in it. Although you remember the place being fleshy. Reminds you of a fiend's den. And then towards you, down this small row of cells, only 5 or 6. And you see 2 familiar faces approach you. One face, the one you recognize from your thoughts just a few nights ago. The one that who has never met you, at least you think, yet knew your name, yet drew it, well, the one that drew it from your mind. And willed you to surrender. Tremere. And then the other, The one that in practice you acceded to. And the one that, well, the one that had you state. And you kind of hear the jingling of keys as from his belt. The man takes off a ring of several keys, about 5 or 6, all of which look largely identical to each other. It's hard to see from your angle. You mostly only see the ceiling. You can only see the upper end of the entrance. You see little outside other than these two figures or their faces. But you hear him insert a key into the lock on this cell door and open it. And the woman begins chaining you up to the hold at the back of the cell door. Obviously, up until now, it hasn't been necessary to put you in there. You've been staked. But as you move, you're able to get a brief glimpse of these two people kind of in their full attire before your head just kind of slumps looking at the ground. And your hands are just neatly locked into the cuffs on the wall. Big, heavy, black iron cuffs. And then the gentleman breaks this rather awkward affair of silence. You may unstake him now. The woman simply nods at this and wordlessly removes the stake from your heart. But only so much that you can speak.
As the new flush of sensation, though limited, reaches through his body, through, but mainly focusing on his face. He will make gestures with his face like a person would if maybe they've been sleeping on it wrong, like the muscles aren't responding properly, and he's trying to shake them awake.
You can move your neck around. You can basically move your head and your neck around, but right now you don't feel any real. You don't feel any. You can feel the other sensations on your body, but you cannot move them.
Yeah.
Whenever you try to, as people do, move their arm, yours just doesn't move.
Hmm.
It doesn't help that they're cuffed to a wall. So,
but after a few seconds of these gestures of unnecessary stretches, he'll look forward to his, well, at this point, his wardens.
Pleasant evening, I hope.
I've had a lot to think about.
I'm sure a lot has been on your mind.
Garland will do his best not to smirk at the irony of that statement.
We just came here to ask you a few simple questions. If it is not so hard, of course.
Carlos would respond, I am humbled that you wish to hear my opinion from my mouth.
I am not asking for your opinion, I would be asking for the truth. He just
And
kind of pleasantly smiles at you in a very Stepford sort of way.
yeah, Garland in his mind is like, he surely knows. He's been in my mind. Like, what is his angle?
I mean, he's been in your mind like 3 days ago. You're completely unaware of any mental intrusions up until that point.
No,
Sorry,
he's not
up
thinking
and
that.
up from then until now.
Yeah, he's not thinking that. Oh, he's destroyed my mind. Everything is just like he was in my mind, and surely a Tremere would be dissecting me, but he doesn't truly know. So that's it. He's just odd that he's even asking. It's just odd because all he thinks of the Tremere is like most of the other vampires. They're usurpers. They're mages. There's something's not right about them. Why would a group of humans want to become vampires? It makes no sense.
Hmm. The same reason that you wish to be fully inducted into the world of Cain, most assuredly.
But after a few moments of mental contemplation, he'll respond, what do you wish to know from me then?
He simply looks away from you for a moment, smiling kind of into the space off to his left, and then looks back at you. Why did you decide to intrude on our domain?
Because I needed to fulfill a bargain.
What sort of bargain could compel you to break one of the sacred traditions of Cain? He looks fairly curiously at you and blinks a few times.
One that would affect the honor of not only of me, but the people that I care about. The dealer was quite powerful and persuasive.
And who might it be that you care so deeply about, and you feel the need to destroy the sacred rules of our society for them?
For for flam, for family and clan.
Who among them?
The ones that I really know.
And who are they?
Wilhelm and my sire. I don't have a strong enough connection with the other Brujah within Edessa besides those. Azir is a pleasant man, but I've only met him a scarce amount of times. And I know very little of his children.
And who was it that you made this pact with?
And he'll simply state, you haven't heard about me?
Should I?
Well, it's not something I really want to tell other people about, but I know people speak upon the winds of my misstep with a particular family when I arrived to Edessa.
Child, you're not being employed for the favor of the local court. You are speaking for your life at this moment. I would urge you be direct and to the point, not have us ask more questions than are necessary.
And Garland definitely puts that in consideration. And he's right now. Could I do a Camarilla lore real quick in my mind? To kind of
Camarilla
get a.
law? That Camarilla doesn't exist yet.
Wait, Camarilla doesn't. Sorry, a vampire lore. Or actually, wait.
For what reason?
Actually, I think the proper thing actually would probably be politics. He's trying to figure out what would be the best way to answer him that would not put any more shame on him and his clan as it already is. Yeah.
Um, it would be probably etiquette. If you want to figure out if you want to figure out a well worded answer, it'd probably be either etiquette or expression. Um, Common sense, though. Keep in mind, you've already been told that your life more or less hangs in the balance of what you say. So if you're caught saying anything dishonest, you might just be killed out of hand.
Yeah.
In fact, that's more or less been assured,
Yeah.
been directly stated to you at this point.
Well,
And you know as well as anyone else, they can just take the information from you.
yeah. Uh, I was given a deal that regardless of what they may think I have accomplished. But the children of Set. I assume, which was my plan when I arrived here, they wanted me to break domain. Well, at that particular day, I was hoping the idea was simply to cause maybe more of a ruckus for you if they simply just wanted to supposedly just try to bring some shame onto you and not get caught. As I was choosing my target, I came to the consideration that that seems a bit too simple, too plain. And I believe, because I've been on a hunt for the creature that has been through the Christian quarters and throughout Edessa, that they may be involving themselves with it more intently than was to be expected, but that's just speculation on my part. So
You
I
can
simply
only
did what I.
assume that domain breacher is yourself,
Hmm. Uh,
considering the one who was breaking domain was you and you were caught.
hmm.
Surely, am I wrong?
No, everything officially looks is correct. I have broken domain. I fed someone till they are drained completely when amongst the Christian quarters. There's no other connection physically besides my word.
And yet you have broken one of the six sacred rules that we are all sworn to uphold. Regardless. The followers of Set, great minds. How chilling. How many more did you kill within the domain? Any more we do not know about?
Just the one. I was not trying to go on a spree. I simply wanted to accomplish what was asked of me. I wish I hadn't done. I wish I could have done that a bit more neatly, but I at least assured myself that she passed peacefully.
Mm. How gloriously vain of you.
I have to figure out something to keep myself being able to sleep at night or in the day.
He just looks you up and down without moving his neck or head. Truly shameless. And what was your intended desire? What was it you were specifically told to do?
Break domain within the Tremere domain. Those were their exact orders.
Yeah, more or less. Out of character, that's not specifically what they said, but that was more or less the direct intention. So
It's also
obviously
not to
that
get
honest
caught,
statement.
but it's
Yeah, that and that one sort of don't get caught.
yeah. Okay.
But yeah, other than that sort of it that pretty much directly, even though they might not have said break domain directly, so as to maintain some degree of plausible deniability, that's it can't really be interpreted any other way. Oh. And you did not question such a commandment? You did not bring it before your superiors so
I
that they
spoke
could
to
be judged?
Wilhelm before I followed up on my assignment. And we agreed my honor was at stake. I must accomplish the boon or wish or be considered an oath breaker. And I did not see that as an option.
And yet now you are not just an oathbreaker, but a criminal.
Uh,
Oh.
Garland simply says, I've always been a criminal. That's nothing new. But I have brought shame upon myself and my clan. That is a concern of mine.
Well then, perhaps we should do the duty of the court right here.
I am obviously at your mercy.
Oh yes. What were you intending to do after accomplishing your mission had you escaped us?
I was actually planning to see if I could find the creature.
How did you intend to find the creature?
I've had my resources.
What are your resources?
So people see things, I investigate them.
This tells me,
I'm.
or have you not listened to me?
Sorry?
He says, this tells me nothing, or have you not listened to me?
And he responds, saying, I talk to people that I know that throughout the streets I see something unusual. I try to cross reference from what I've seen of the creature before. I've dealt with it once.
This does not tell me what your resources are. I asked what your resources are.
And he just kind of looks at him the best way. Oddly, it's like people. That's like some thieves, drunkards, small folk, some people within the church. Said I don't have a large sprawling network that could find the most minute details, but I do have a I do have friends in all types of different spots that can help me narrow things down.
You could spot the most minute details. That is, of course, why you are in a cell and the creature runs rampant, no?
Yeah.
That is, if you are not a creature.
As far as I learned from the creature before, it has possibly a vendetta against your family.
Oh, and how would you have come to that conclusion? Oh. Okay. He simply says, and what would have led you to come to that conclusion?
Uh, Me and some other groups that were assigned to deal with the creature learned some things. But I don't. They have the ability to perceive past information, and
Oh, and who might those be?
others who volunteer to fight the creature
Their
under the.
names.
Mm. And Garland thinks about upon this, and he can't really remember everybody's name. He knows really got the information from the Mishi, but he doesn't really remember his name. He only met him that one time. And he's the one that really got more detailed information. Everybody else was physically contacting the creature.
Irene, Eklos, and Annabelle. I'll give you that one for free.
Yeah. There was Lady Irene. She was part of the search party. It was me. It was me, a Salubri, Irene, and a Shimishi. I think there was also a Nosferatu there.
No,
That was way back when. I do remember there was, but I haven't seen
yeah,
that player in a long
we
time.
can discount him.
Okay.
Oh, and Gufron.
Oh yeah, I guess he was there. I don't.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was Gufron.
How did you come to the boon to that I was said?
I embarrassed them at a party.
He just looks at you, awaiting an actual response to his question.
That is the response. I embarrassed them at a party.
He waits.
That is. And he kind of looks at him a bit obliquely, and then I guess responds, thinking that he needs more detail. That when I was investigating a disturbance, and I was attacked by a ghoul. And
His ghoul.
what did he say? Whose ghoul?
Hmm.
I don't know who sired the ghoul. I just know that in our scuffle, I lost control, and there was this. I met him a few times, a Ventrue, that subdued me.
What was the Venture's name?
Hmm. He was some high-ranking official in Ancilla, and and I don't remember his character's name. Uh,
Right. Oh no, I don't think he told you. Nope, you don't know.
no, I met him at a party once, so I've heard his name a few times. I heard it from
You've heard his
Madeline.
name, but you might not necessarily connect him to the actual event because he was wearing a helmet.
Was
I
he?
believe he
Because
might have been wearing a
because
helmet. I'm not
he
sure.
recognized me and we had a small conversation as he
And that's if
basically.
you recognize each other, then yeah, in another scene, then yeah, go ahead. You can give him the name.
Yeah, I said I just don't remember his name. That was the thing.
Oh
It's
yes,
been so
Gerard.
long. Yeah,
Gerard of
Gerard.
Tours.
Yeah,
But you only know his first name, I think.
yeah. I only know his first name. I didn't take I didn't take the time to remember his last name because I didn't care for him. Yeah, it's
What was
adventure
this
name.
investigation?
The creature has been attacking throughout Edessa, leaving bodies. That's a bad look on our part. So, a mixture of Wilhelm's hounds asked for the cooperation of volunteers of
OC, for a record, that is not a true statement.
that is not a true statement.
Um, when you went to the Selite domain, um,
Oh, he's talking about referring back to that. I thought he's referring to why we're
yeah, all
hunting
the
the
way
creature.
back, I think you were looking for a specific individual. Um, for the purposes of garnering influence and power.
Mhm. Yeah.
Or that's what you were told to do by the
Yeah. But he
authorities
brought up the
of your
creature,
clan.
so that's why I brought up with the authority part because he didn't ask me why. Because he asked me why I was there, and I said I was investigating.
Not in the
And
Select
then
domain, not for the
no,
creature.
no, I wasn't looking for the set domain. I wasn't looking for the creature in the set domain. That is true.
Yeah, you were
I was trying to mingle, and it went poorly.
you're trying to mingle, and I think you're trying to find someone of repute, a mortal. But that was for the purposes of gaining some form of power within the area and in others.
Yeah.
Hard to remember his name in the sense that it's another mortal among the hundreds you meet every day. He's certainly not important to you now.
Yeah.
He was handed off, as it were. I do not believe you even found him in that mission. In that scene, actually, someone else did, but it wasn't Garland.
No, yeah, I did get cut off by the ghoul, and we
Yeah,
had that scuffle.
this doesn't explain how the Setites found you.
I was at their party in their domain. Garland's right now thinking like I think he's thinking there's a plan amongst the plans, and what happened was actually relatively simple.
You were subdued by Venture, not a Setite. What happened after you were subdued by this clearly far more competent individual?
I was put into a cell.
Memories.
And another thing goes Garland mind is like, okay, like is every higher ranking vampire megalomaniac? And he starts to really think about it, like,
Yes.
well, yes, they
Our
are.
character, yes.
Yeah, it's like
Yes, they are.
it's like
Welcome to Vampire.
because he's so used to his sire, and sire is always rather cold and apathetic, which may seem odd for a Brujah, and he doesn't know enough about the Brujah history thinking about the true Brujah. So he just says he thinks his sire's kind of odd. Seeing all these other elder vampires are always seem so emotional, and Harlech always seemed always even tempered.
Oh no, this gentleman isn't particularly emotional right now. He's just toying with you, which is pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened after you were put into your cell, and by who or whom?
So instead, that guard came to release me and said I owed a major boon to the clan.
He bobbles his head at this. That took us far too long. What was the name of the guard? Out of character, his
Mm,
name was Seti.
his name was Steady.
Are you aware of anyone else outside of our clan, of course, who's within a domain?
Not that I could think of. It'd be against their machinations if they told me everything that they wanted to do within the domain.
At the time of your capture, at least.
No, when I when I found the old woman and was going with the rest of the plan, two other canines found me.
Which brings us to now. He looks at the woman and just nods once. And she will pull out the stake a little bit further, giving you movement over most of your upper torso area. You can move your waist, you can move your arms, hands free, all freely. You still cannot move your legs.
Yeah. Again, the flexion motion of feeling and moving the limbs again a few seconds, but he doesn't try to go in Brujah rage and try to break free. That would
It's
be in
actually kind
play.
of excruciating with the with your arms or hands chained to the large braces on the wall. Um, in fact, considering your rather impoverished state um, and your great hunger right now, could you please make me a self-control check at difficulty 7? You're restricted to 3 dice because you're at 3 blood.
All right.
And keep in mind your wound penalties as well.
Then I am down to do dice then.
Wounded, you're at -2. Should
Uh,
put you at only 1 dice.
as far as I know, I still only have the one willpower, right?
Yeah, you're mentally
Okay.
exhausted. You could
Yeah.
spend the last willpower if you really wanted to, but
I think
it
I'd rather
basically
have at
means
least.
any attempt to emotionally manipulate you via supernatural means will automatically garner 5 successes on the roll
Yeah.
because there is literally you have no willpower left. Like they affect you automatically.
Yeah.
There is no
No,
difficulty to the roll whatsoever.
Garland won't keep that up. He wants to keep what sense of sense of dignity and pride to himself. You said difficulty 7?
Mm. Okay, you
Uh,
succeed. You don't lose control of yourself, but it's like this process of barely being able to hold yourself in with the constant bleeding of your wound or the constant like open wound, the constant pain, the fact that you've been in a state of still agony for hours, been unable to do even the most the most instinctive of things such as blinking, which even for many Canites, particularly those who are young like yourself or those who are on Humanitas, is still fairly natural and in many ways necessary. as materials such as dust that can rest in your eyes is still extremely irritable. Um, and it has built up there. The constant water that was tapping, there's a kind of thin drip just tapped on your shoulder like every hour. This constant process um, of just complete impotence and yet constant irritation that just sort of slowly built up into something unbearable, into something torturous. Um, and now being chained to a wall is for even greater humiliation. It's almost too much to bear, but you are able to bear it.
Garland simply sits there after a few moments and of flexing and more or less keeping the screaming internal, just simply waits.
They wait a moment, and then when it looks like you have calmed, I'm going to make. Oh, okay. They unstake you fully, and the regent moves forward to unlock for two braces that kept you in place. It should be noted any armaments or tools that were once on your person have been taken from you. Um,
I'm
you were
assuming
more or
I'm
less
naked.
strip searched before you even entered Chantry or were taken there.
When Garland drops from the elevation from his arms, he doesn't necessarily kind of rake at his wrist, though he would wants to. He simply, again, does a stretching motion with his whole entire body, but keeps himself up front and looks forward, keeping
Mm.
his composure and the pride that's within him.
It's fairly hard to do with your wound. You're largely only restricted to walking at a fairly slow pace. Um, the pain makes it hard to stand up properly, but you're able to do it. You're able to at least do that much. The hooded gentleman, who now you can see, upon kind of being able to move your head around and stuff, um, there is seem to be some sort of fairly heavy, thick armor underneath his cloak. You always saw his sword, um, but now that you're able to kind of adjust your vision and your entire body, it's a lot easier to kind of gauge him. He takes out a rolled up piece of parchment. You can immediately smell the thick scent of vitae that emanates from it.
Garland eyes focus, turn and focus at the parchment. He does his best not to basically exasperate and moan from the smell of vitae,
It's
being so hungry.
rolled up. Or rather, it's actually no, it wouldn't be rolled up at all. Actually, it would simply have been. Yeah, it wouldn't have been rolled up. It would have been attached. It would have been kept safely inside, but it would have not been rolled up. No, it would have been rolled up. I'm wrong. He unrolls it. The first thing you recognize is the seal of Clan Tremere in the bottom right-hand corner. It sticks out. Obviously, it's the only image on the scroll. It's only basically an A4. It's like an A4 parchment. It's not very big, but the contents of it is important.
Yeah,
On
it
it,
is.
you can see words written in blood. And as you read, it appears to be an agreement between two parties. One of which is between Clan Tremere, the other of which has been left blank, although there has been a line left for someone to sign, stating that the one who signs this agreement will serve as a faithful serf of Clan Tremere, that they will not reveal any of their secrets. That they shall work tirelessly to meet their goals, ambitions, and interests. That if there is a conflict in those interests, they will accede to those within the clan of the highest authority. And that they shall make no attempt to impede, insult, knowingly or otherwise, against Clan Tremere. Sorry, insult, impede, harm, or disrupt Clan Tremere in any way whatsoever.
Garland sees it, and he does his best not to basically have a look that he is drinking something bitter and sour, going over the contract.
Long story short, this contract would make you a slave to Clan Tremere. At least in word. You're not sure why it's written in blood.
Said magic. Tremere always magic.
It's quite literally a blood contract in the fact that it's clearly an agreement or treaty or contract written in blood. But you're not sure of any mystical significance. You have no idea if there's any mystical significance whatsoever.
No, I have no idea for sure. This is purely paranoia and suspicion.
You're probably correct. As recompense for your transgressions against the clan, you will sign this agreement, this contract between us. The two other important things to note on this contract are that you will provide a sample of your blood to them, and that if they ask you to provide a sample of your vitae to them, that you will do so without questions asked or any objections. A third thing is that your memories will be any memory of the area that you are in will be removed from you, as in you will not remember that you were here or what happened here apart from the signing of a contract that you know the terms to, including the fact that your memories would be seized from you.
Again, the sour look and partially goes like, why all this paperwork? It's like, is
Yeah,
this just some
it's
type of...
only like it's only a sheet of paper. or parchment.
Yeah, but is mine not saying the official term of paperwork like in modern times, but like why have a physical document and why not just force me to do it? Why not just break my mind and do it? Why even keep me alive at this point? He's just thinking of all the reasons why they would do this. The whys, and whys. And
It's
he's
a
curious.
fantastic line of questioning that achieves absolutely no answers.
And he wants to ask questions why, but that may get him killed. And he's also debating in his mind, is death worth it? But even if I were to die, there could be shame upon other people, which I can't have that. Then I'd just be dying for nothing and shaming everybody that I know. Mm. And Garland will simply say, I'm assuming this is for forever or till final death.
The contract specifically states that that it is eternal in nature. Literally, the contract specifically states, yeah, one shall eternally abide by these decrees. And then it basically lists them out.
Mm.
He lets go of the parchment and it just hangs there in the air. As if he was still holding it. And he will take out an ink and quill for you. And hand it to you for you to sign.
As Garland grabs the coin and again looks at his paper and thinks about all those stories about his mother and father talking about making deals with the devil and things like that. Now they're coming in a lot clearer right now. And he thinks about Wilhelm and his sire and the tenets of being a visor and a servant, and tries to rationalize that this is a good thing. This could work out for me. This will keep me alive. If I'm alive, I can recover. I can adapt. I can succeed.
The ink and quill left hanging there in the air. The quill just quietly dips into the ink pot. This tiny little ink pot. And it just slowly drifts towards you.
As he puts the quill into the ink pot, he just simply says, as he begins to put pen onto paper and begins inscribing his name, he'll simply ask why.
They actually just remain silent. They do not answer you. They just stand still, looking at you.
Then, after just a few more moments, his name is inscribed on the parchment.
they, upon seeing you finish signing this contract, it will simply drift on over to the woman. Or to the side of the woman, rather. Well, if you allow her to, we'll restake you.
I would have no reason to comply, not to comply at this point.
You are restaked. You will remain within this domain for the next 3 nights, upon which you'll be released. And then you will do your part as faithful servants of Clan Tremere. A right and honourable cog in our great machine. He wouldn't say machine, he would say our great and honourable. Yeah. A right and honourable piece of our great work. Take pride. This is perhaps the closest you'll ever come to any form of greatness. Your wrists are cuffed back up to the braces, the cuffs on the wall. They click neatly in place for you, leaving you just hanging there. In a way that kind of opens your wound in a rather painful way. And once more he will look at the lady and simply say, "Well then, I believe our business here is concluded. Let us be going." Of course, my lord. And she will exit the cell, leaving this man to walk out himself with the keys and lock you back within its doors. Not within its bars. And will take their leave. Over the next 3 nights, could you make me 3 perception awareness checks?
Alrighty then.
Your penalties. They actually put some effort into feeding you this time to ensure that you are not an immediate threat to everyone around you. So your blood remains stable at 3. However, you are still hungry.
No successes on that.
Nope.
2 successes on that.
You feel an ever grippening, an ever tightening grip in your chest. And the third one success. You get the same sort of sensation, but at this point, I should be saying this happens during your removal from the chantry. It should be said on the third night you were actually blindfolded and effectively wrapped up almost as if you're a mummy or some prop. In fact, you're wrapped up quite thickly so as to be indistinguishable from outside, at which point you're dropped off. But the sensation you feel is an absolute grip on your very being. There is a deep sense of subservience to the clan of Tremere. So much so that it almost seems to drown out your subservience to your mentor, your sire, Harlock, in some fashion. And you feel consistently as if your heart is in a vice grip whenever you're not thinking or considering aiding their interests in some fashion or another. You feel anxious thinking about anything else. You only really feel comfortable when you are considering serving them. You also feel a deep sense of fear when you consider abandoning them. One that is crippling in its nature, in that you literally cannot bear to think about it. You immediately switch your thoughts. It is as if it is traumatic for you to even consider. As if something terrible were to happen otherwise. It's not necessarily the thought of abandoning them that scares you, rather than it is the consequences. But there is an inherent awareness of this. You do not know what, but you can tell it will not be good for you. And that is perhaps the understatement of the century. But yes, that is those are the last real things you sense as you are escorted out of the chantry, and your memories of its location and what has occurred there are taken, and you largely forget what you have. Well, you entirely forget what you have seen and where you have gone. You forget the layout of the chantry. You forget the shape of the cell doors, the cold, damp feeling of the room. You remember your impalement, and you remember signing a contract of some sort, and you remember what was in the contract, but you find yourself unable to think about it for long. Whenever you try and mutter to yourself about it, you find the words stolen from your lips, as if you are mute. And you are left alone. Your wrapped body, before you are unstate, you're thrown into what appears to be a large hole. It takes you a while to get your bearings as you climb out. You realize you're outside. just outside. 1 second as I get up the map. Yeah, so you're actually, no, you're not just outside. You are just you're on the southern tip of the Christian Quarter by the walls. There is a small cemetery there, like for a local one, for people that wish to be buried there. There are several cemeteries within the Christian Quarter. This is one of the smallest ones. But you're effectively thrown into a grave. You're on the air. You are basically between the Christian. Effectively, you're inside the Christian Quarter, but you're right next to Abraham's fountain. Is there anything you wish to do before we end this scene?
Garland would be taking the back streets, avoiding the people until he gets to his herd spot. And as he's going to that place, he'd be checking checking himself. You know, do I still have my tools? I
They were
remember
never
bringing.
returned to you.
Yeah, I don't know that they've been. I'm feeling that memory of that whole thing happened. So I'd be like, I thought I remember bringing my tools, and I was going somewhere, but I don't have them on me. And I was told to do something, and then the hunger and the pain of thinking, trying to remember kicks in. First things first, I need to eat, and I need to find that thing. Yeah, and he winces a bit, but he focuses a little bit his mind, like, yes, the thing that was in the quarters that was causing a problem. And he'll go to his hunting spot and do his best not to kill his typical herd.
Make one self-control check at difficulty 7, like before, please.
Right. Am I still restricted by the blood, or just roll my normal dice?
Yeah, you're 3 bloods, so you're restricted to 3 dice.
Okay. And I lose 2 from my wound, so I only have 1. I
You
make it.
make it barely. You do not drain them dry. You satiate yourself. And with your herd safe, and Garland seemingly safe and sound himself, we will end the scene there. Thank you, player, for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching, and we'll see you all next time.